Canada is home to a very large and very active Ukrainian diaspora. And it's a diaspora that has been hijacked by Western Ukrainian nationalists who have an affinity for the odious ideology of Stepan Bandera, who is, close ties with Adolf Hitler's Nazi Germany, whose forces participated in the slaughter and butcher of tens of thousands of Jews, hundreds of thousands of Polish civilians, hundreds of thousands of Russian civilians. Truly one of the most hate-filled characters, and yet in diaspora, this movement has, reimagined itself. It's gone away from being collaborators with Hitler and the Nazis of the worst kind, by the way, the worst kind. The crimes perpetrated by the Ukrainian nationalists loyal to Stepan Bandera are beyond imagination. And yet they've been reimagined as, freedom fighters, people who, they fought both Nazi Germany and they fought Joseph Stalin's, Soviet horde. These are the bravest of the brave, the purest of the pure, the most noble people in the world. Stepan Bandera is a misunderstood character. He really just stands for a united, independent, free Ukraine, free like Canada is free like America's is free. No, he stands for mass murder. He stands for white racist ideology. He stands for Nazi ideology. But it's been mainstreamed in Canada. I mean, these Western Ukrainians have been coddled by Canada. And it's not just, when I say Western Ukrainians, understand this. To give you an example, the Waffen SS, sort of the elite murderous arm of the Nazi ideology, they had a division, the 14th Galatian Division, Galatia being the term for that area in Central and Eastern Europe where Western Ukraine is located. They fought alongside the Nazis for the duration of the conflict. When the war ended, they turned themselves over to the Allies. And instead of being repatriated to the Soviets, where they would have received their just rewards, they were sent on diaspora, and many of them went to Canada. So Canada became the receiving nation for thousands of SS stormtroopers. But they reimagined themselves. They weren't SS stormtroopers. They were fighting the Soviets. They were freedom fighters. And next thing you know, these people become mainstreamed into Canada's academic, political, economic circles. To give you, maybe the most prominent example is Chrystia Freeland.
We know a lot about Chrystia Freeland.
All right. Well, Chrystia, one of the things about this organization, Ukrainian nationalists that exist, they claim that they're just promoting Ukrainian cultural values, and they have something called, I think it's the Plank movement. It's a scouting movement. It's Boy Scouts. It's Girl Scouts. It's fuzzy. It's friendly. They're wonderful. No, it's a movement designed to indoctrinate the youth. They bring them in and they are taught the history of Western Ukraine, the culture, the glory of Stepan Bandera, the glory of the heroes, Slava Ukraina, and people need to understand when they hear that Slava Ukraina, it doesn't mean glory to Ukraine. Just like Sig Heil doesn't mean, salute you. Sig Heil means I am a Nazi. And Slava Ukraina means I am a Banderist. It is the war cry of the Bandera movement, shouted out as they shoved women, children, the elderly into barns, into churches, and set them on fire, burning hundreds to death at a time. Slava Ukraina, that's what it means. And they're taught this from the earliest age. Chrystia Freeland is a byproduct of this scouting movement. She is a hardcore Nazi through and through. She is a true believer. And then she became a senior Canadian official. Just like in the United States, we have people like Victoria Nuland and others who replicate this hateful ideology. And here they are making decisions. They're polluting the minds of the Canadian population. They're using their influence in Canadian mainstream media to ignore the reality of the past, to continue this glorification. And it led to Canadian troops being sent to Ukraine as part of a NATO training mission where they trained the Azov Regiment. These are literal Nazis. These are the worst of the worst. And there's Canada training guys that have swastikas and other Nazi symbology on their uniform. And Chrystia Freeland is okay with that because that's who she is. She went on a parade, and it's not just the Ukrainian flag. She was given the Azov banner. The Ukrainian flag, of course, is blue over gold, the blue sky, the gold, the grain fields. The Azov, the Banderas banner, is blood red over black soil, blood and soil. That's their symbol. That's their ideology. She's okay with that. She's okay with parading with this. She's an odious individual, a hateful individual, and she's a large reason why Canada today is positioned on the wrong side of history when it comes to Ukraine and this conflict with Russia.
It's not often I bring guests on because I want them to corroborate things that I've been screaming from the mountaintops, but there's a couple of points in what we're going to talk about here tonight where that's going to happen, and I'm grateful and glad for it. And that's particularly one of them. And you brought up the fact that Canadian troops have been over there training these guys for a long time. And in Canada, there were some feeble attempts to bring this to the public's attention going up to 2018, 2019. Even the National Post was trying to explain to Canadians that, look, your government is sending a lot of money over there and training these guys. Now this seems to be a continuously devolving situation, and they're all complicit in covering it up. But one of the other sides of this that I think speaks to the motive of why there's never going to be an off-ramp as long as Biden isn't in power, and we have this regime led basically by Chrystia Freeland, who is Klaus Schwab's right-hand hand, and also George Soros's right hand at the same time. So you're right. She is absolutely an odious person that has got herself in the swing positions of what's manifesting itself across the planet. But the Burisma situation between Joe Biden and the Ukraine, that has been part of what festered and ultimately created this proxy war. A lot of it was to cover up the corruption between the Biden regime, where they were funneling money over there in this, to create this proxy war as a money laundering operation in Ukraine. And this is what Canadian troops were being used for, training these guys to take part and facilitate in all of this. And so I was diving into Burisma in 2019, and this may shock a lot of people out there that might see this. Burisma is also a Canadian company, not just a Ukrainian company. So there's just another, part of the puzzle of the